is happiness to being successful? Don't you need to be successful before you find happiness? Sean Anker brilliantly explores these questions and more in his book, The Happiness Advantage. I highly recommend it. It really gave me a new perspective on the role that happiness plays on being successful and reaching your goals. In this video, I want to share with you my 3 big takeaways from this book and how it's impacted my daily journaling practice. My name is Marcella Cooper, and I'm excited to share with you my insights, experiences, and personal strategies that have helped me to develop into a more productive and effective teacher. If you're a teacher that's interested in improving your teaching methods, gaining different perspectives on ways of teaching, and reflecting on what impacts your teaching practice, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit the like button if you find the ideas in this video interesting and helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified when I post videos with more content like this. Let's get started. Before I share with you how this book made such an amazing impact on my life, I have to share with you some background information. Right now, I'm filming in my hotel in Shanghai while I'm quarantining for 2 weeks before I can return to Beijing. It's been quite a journey. In January 2020, my husband and I decided to go to the Philippines from Beijing for a 2-week vacation during Chinese New Year. Leaving our home in Beijing, we packed for our 2-week vacation. We said goodbye to our apartment on campus, thinking that the vacation would be over much too soon. Little did we know that we wouldn't see our apartment for another 8 months. At the end of January, just before we were to return, COVID started to become a real concern in China, and my school in Beijing gave us a choice. We could return to Beijing, or we could teach remotely from wherever we were. We chose to stay, and eventually we moved to Thailand and continued to teach remotely from there. In March, COVID seemed to be more under control in China, and so we decided it's time to go home. While we love Thailand and its tropical weather, teaching online had proved harder than expected, and living from a suitcase with 2 weeks worth of clothes had proven more taxing than expected. We booked our flight for March 31st, only to find out that China closed its borders to all foreigners and canceled all foreign work visas on March 28th. So with no date for return, we resigned ourselves to staying in Pattaya, Thailand for an indefinite period of time. I stumbled my way through the rest of the school year, both as a high school teacher and in my first year as head of English department. To say that I was burned out by June is an understatement. I was in a state of numbness, avoiding emails, feeling anxiety whenever I even thought of continuing to teach an upcoming new school year, and generally feeling like I was backsliding professionally in all ways possible. I was in an apartment that wasn't mine, in a country I didn't live in, working at a school that I wasn't allowed to return to. I've always been in the habit of listening to audiobooks, and so one day, on the recommendation of one of the YouTube videos on productivity that I was watching, I decided to take a listen to The Happiness Advantage. What a life changer! This was around August, and I can honestly say that this was around the time that things started to turn around for me, both personally and professionally. The book covers 7 principles, but I want to cover the top 3 that resonated with me the most. The first one that resonated with me is principle number 3, the Tetris Effect. This chapter is titled after the famous game Tetris, where shapes of various sizes fall from the top of the screen, and you have to constantly search and scan for where that shape is going to fit in before it falls to the bottom of the screen. Essentially, it's a game where you're constantly searching and scanning for specific patterns as quickly as you can. This chapter really hit home for me that if I'm searching and scanning constantly for negativity, I'm going to experience a lot of negativity. It reminded me of the time as a kid when my family bought a red cherry minivan. And all of a sudden, after my family bought this red cherry minivan, it seemed like everyone had a red cherry minivan. And of course, my family was not the first or the last to buy this minivan, but now that my family owned this minivan, I was now recognizing it, seeing it everywhere, whereas I hadn't really thought to look for it before. As a teacher, searching and scanning for things that are wrong can be an advantage. With our students, we search and scan for mistakes all the time so that we can correct them and give them feedback, meaningful feedback. For my lessons, I'm always looking for what I need to improve for the next lesson. Looking for what's wrong often helps us to make it right, but constantly scanning for negativity means that we're going to find a lot of negativity, and it was definitely taking its toll on me in Thailand. My time in Thailand was an amazing once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but I couldn't see that in the beginning. One of the quotes that really resonated with me was, "When our brains constantly scan for and focus on the positive, we profit from 3 of the most important tools available to us: happiness, gratitude, and optimism." I journal digitally every morning and evening, but after reading this chapter, I decided to add sections to my journal that focused on searching and scanning for positivity. I included what I was grateful for, 1 or 2 highlights that I was looking forward to in the day, and what my positive daily intention was for the day. Starting each day looking forward to the day, expecting positivity from the day, really changed the way that I experienced the day. Watch to the end of this video and I'll show you where you can get a template of the journal that I created on Notion. Do you journal digitally or on paper? Comment below, especially if you feel like it's an important part of your life. Another principle that really resonated with me was Ankor's principle number 4, failing up. I'm the kind of person that hates making mistakes. Of course, I know that making mistakes is human and that making mistakes is inevitable. It doesn't mean that I don't hate making mistakes any less. And after 17 years of teaching, you start to reach a level of confidence, and the mistakes that you make are less impactful, say, than the mistakes I made in my first or second year of teaching. Then remote teaching came into my life, and it was like I was a first-year teacher all over again. I had lessons that crashed and burned. I had to collaborate with colleagues in different ways and in much more necessary ways than before. I needed to learn new technology and adapt to new ways of teaching and learning, and I needed to do it all in a hurry. On top of that, it was my first year in a leadership position as head of English. As the year was coming to a close and big decisions needed to be made, I started making mistakes that not only impacted me and my students, which is bad enough, but it impacted my colleagues in my department, and it impacted the administrators at the middle school and high school level. In this chapter, a quote that really resonated with me was, "The people who can most successfully get themselves up off the mat are those who define themselves not by what has happened to them, but by what they can make out of what has happened." I also loved when Ankor wrote, "Study after study shows that if we are able to conceive of a failure as an opportunity for growth, we are all the more likely to experience that growth." So I went back to my journal and I added another section to my evening journal. And that section was what I learned from today. I wanted to make sure that every day had been an opportunity to grow, no matter what mistakes had been made. I was going to fail up, as Ankor phrased it. And then something magical happened. I definitely still kept making mistakes, but I didn't experience them as mistakes anymore. I experienced them as opportunities for growth. When I saw where I could improve, it excited me because I knew that I could improve. Like Ankor said, I stopped defining myself by the mistakes that I made and instead reflected and grew from the lessons that life had taught me. The next idea to resonate with me was Ankor's 5th principle, the Zorro circle. For a long time, while I was remote teaching, I wanted to control everything. The fact is, I was trying to control things that I couldn't control, either because I wasn't at that skill level yet, or because there are things that are just out of my control. Going back to my journal, I started to focus on things that I could control. For example, I knew that I would never be good at mastering every app that was out there, no matter how amazing those apps seemed to be. So I decided to focus on 2 or 3 apps that I would consistently use in all of my lessons. You can't control people, especially teenagers that are on the other side of the computer across the great expanse of the internet. And so instead of trying to control their engagement and keeping them engaged, putting the responsibility of their engagement on me, I decided instead to focus on making their learning visible. And so I consistently included exit tickets, timed writing, 10-minute timed writing. I recorded their group conversations so that I could watch it for later on. And magically, when students started to realize that they had to produce evidence of their learning, they started engaging more, participating more in class discussions. As for controlling the technology and the internet reliability, there's nothing that I could do about that. In the beginning, it was about me trying to make sure that the technology worked properly, that the internet interruptions didn't happen. However, now I realize that instead of reacting to these issues, I needed to be more proactive. In the last video that I put out, I showed how creating a digital agenda can help you be very proactive in your lesson and anticipate any problems that can come up by providing instructions to the students so that they know what to do if the internet cuts out. They know what to do if the app doesn't work. The Happiness Advantage is definitely a must-read book that will change your perspective on the importance of happiness. Oftentimes, myself included, people think that happiness comes after a goal has been achieved. This book has really made me prioritize happiness as part of the process of reaching my goals. I'd love to hear from you if any of these ideas resonated with you as well, whether you're a teacher in the physical classroom or on the internet. Comment below and share your experience. Make sure to check out my blog, which includes more of my insights and reflections, both personal and professional. On my blog, I've also included the template for the journal that I created on Notion. Just click on the link in the description box below. Hit the like button if you found the information, the ideas in this video useful and helpful. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, not only to support my channel, but also to be notified when I post new videos with content just like this, sharing my insights, personal reflections, and strategies for teachers. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.